Welcome to the JD Show. The aim of the show is to help you create a dream life. And today we have with us someone who walks the talk and an amazing person, someone who's inspired me massively. He's got a massive bestseller on Amazon and on other channels as well called Property Magic. I think you know who I'm talking about. The man himself who leads Property Investors Community, PIN. Please help me welcome Simon Zutshi.
Jack, thank you very much. Great pleasure to be here, and thanks for asking me.
No, it's absolute pleasure to have you here. I know many people in our audience, like we have a network of almost 20,000 people. I think majority know you well, and many of them actually have taken your trainings. They've been inspired by your book as well. So I'm pretty sure they'll be looking, like literally, I know people who actually asked me, when are you interviewing Simon? I'm like, yeah, well, let me get to that point. So I know people would be waiting for this interview. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where did that spark came from? The spark of starting in property. Where did that initiate from?
Okay, so I don't often talk about this on interviews, and so maybe we can pick up some things that people haven't maybe heard before. And I think most people will have heard that I bought my first property when I'd finished university. I got my first job at Cadbury's in Birmingham as a graduate trainer. I bought a house and I rented out something. So you might have heard that before.
Yes.
But if we go back just a little bit before that, there's two things that I may not have shared necessarily before. One that I certainly haven't shared. And I think, so none of my family have ever been in property apart from their own homes. So it's not like I had exposure to people who were property investors until I went to university. And in my third year, because I did a 4-year course, so I was in halls for the first 2 years. My third year, I had a student HMO house. And we walked the streets of Selly Oak, as you do. We found a house, called the number, spoke to the landlord, said, right, come and sign the contract. So we turned up at this house on a road called Farquhar Road, which is a very posh road in Birmingham, just around the corner from where I live now.
Yeah.
And it's just next to where the student halls were. And we walked into this massive house, into this study, and sat down, this big oak desk, and he was sitting behind the chair, and 4 little chairs for us to sit on. We filled in the contract. And I remember saying to him, I said, wow, if you don't mind me asking, this is a really nice house. What do you do for a living? And he said, well, I used to be a solicitor. And we all know solicitors are smart people, they're well paid, etc. But then he said, but now I'm a full-time landlord. Now, I didn't really know what he meant by that, but I thought, oh, okay, right, interesting, mental note. And it was only later that academic year when actually he came around to the house for times. And one afternoon, I happened to be in, he came around to sort out some jobs. I sat down and said, do you want a cup of tea? So we sat down and had a cup of tea. And I talked to him, and he kind of explained to me the very basic concept. And he said, basically, well, I buy a house and I rent it out, and the money that comes in each month is more than all the costs. And I take some of that profit and I buy some more. And as the value goes up, I reward to buy some more. So he explained it to us, I probably didn't get it. I was like 19, 20 maybe. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, and a mental note. 'Cause I've always been entrepreneurial. So that went in my head. But I think the real catalyst was actually when I finished university in 1994, I didn't have a job. Now, I'd gone to a great university, Birmingham University. I came out from a 4-year combined honours with a 2-1, so a very good degree from a great university. But I hadn't done very well in my A-levels. I only got a CCD, and I squeezed into Birmingham by the skin of my teeth to get into this course. And when you apply for jobs, graduate jobs, obviously, before you finished university, they can just look at back your A-levels. So my A-levels weren't great. And to be honest, I picked all the biggest companies, 7 companies that I'd love to work for them. Cadbury's was one of them. Sent applications for it, and I didn't get one single interview. And I was a bit disheartened, to be honest, because I thought I was a fairly capable person. I'd done lots of stuff at university as well as academic studies. And I assumed I'd get a good job. But the reality is, I just didn't take enough action. I didn't put enough forms out. And maybe because based on track record of A-levels, they thought, oh, there were better people we should interview. So I kind of got to the point where I didn't have it. And I went down to London for a couple of months. I did some telesales, and I actually ended up working at Hamleys. demonstrating magic tricks, because one of my reason the book's called Property Magic is one of my hobbies when I was a kid was magic, and I still like magic now. Anyway, and I did that, and it was good fun, but it didn't really pay the bills. So I came back to Birmingham. My girlfriend at the time was still at university in Birmingham. I had my student house, and I remember it must have been, I think it was about October, November 1994, and I think it's when the National Lottery first started.
Yeah.
And I remember almost daydreaming, what would I do if I won £1 million? And I just thought I'd buy a whole load of student houses and I'd rent them out and I'd live off the income.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a little vision I had in my mind. And obviously I didn't win the lottery, but interestingly, because I thought about that quite a lot, I ended up buying a whole load of houses. Yeah. And even at that, I mean, I didn't know what to do then. I kind of thought, well, just buy cash. I didn't know you could get mortgages on them. And I just thought, well, I just get all the income coming in. So I guess that little vision, which I don't think I've ever shared with anyone on any other podcast before, is kind of what got me started. And then it was when I bought my first house and I lived there, and I was living for free because my tenants were covering the costs. Yeah. I guess it was when I moved out in 1998 and first became a proper landlord, renting my house to a group of students. Yeah. That's when I had the epiphany that owning property is a bit like owning your own cash machine. And the idea is that at the end of each month, after you pay the mortgage, the insurance, the maintenance, the management, because I don't manage my own properties personally, there's some money left over. And I didn't have to do any more work for that property. It just came in every single month. And I thought, this is brilliant. I've got to get some more of these. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Fantastic. What keeps you motivated? Inspired, motivated. Inspiration is internal, but what keeps you motivated?
So I think, well, two things. First of all, I love to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always investing in myself to learn and get better. I think that helps me grow and develop. And so I love doing that. Not so much in property per se, although I did actually do a course last year. I attended a course about commercial property. It's not my expertise that I want to know. So I found the best person who I knew who was teaching it, and learned from, actually there were two people I learned from. But so I'm always investing in myself, and that's one thing. But also I love what I do. I work quite hard. My girlfriend, my wife now, so he says I work too much. But actually, when you enjoy what you do, it doesn't really feel
like work.
And what I've just had a conversation earlier this afternoon with one of my students who's done really, really well, and we're going to interview him at one of my events. And just hearing from his voice, his words, how, I mean, he's done this great deal, but he says, son, that's not the most important thing for me. The thing I've got out of doing Mastermind is to change my mindset, the belief that I can do this, the confidence, because he comes from a building background. He was doing okay, but always running out of money before he's running out of month kind of thing.
Yes.
And the mouth, and never invested before. And he didn't believe that people would lend him money to invest, despite having a load of building experience. And that transformational shift that he's had, which is life-changing for him and his partner and for his kids, his life is never going to be the same now. No. And he's done the hard work. It's not me, but just having been a bit of that catalyst, that just lights me up. And it gives me a real sense of purpose and significance and worthiness. I mean, what are we here for? It's all about making a contribution, I believe.
Here's a question. It just intrigues me. I believe when you actually go and teach someone something, you cannot teach it unless you fully dissect the whole idea and understand it well in depth. It's just impossible to teach it otherwise. And just the fact that you go out there and teach someone allows you to understand a bit more depth yourself, is the one reason I believe people should go out there and teach, because when you start teaching, you tend to dissect it more. You go into the more depth of it.
Absolutely. And even there's a step before that, Jack, actually, which is, so on our courses, whether it's one of our home study courses or our full mastermind, we always try and get a group of people learning at the same time. And the reason is because, we know, Jack, investing in property can be a lonely journey. You've got other people around you that can inspire you, can learn from them. And we encourage them and say, look, if someone asks a question on one of our forums, if you know the answer, or you think that you can help that person, come and answer, because just thinking about how do I articulate the answer it makes you learn it better yourself. So it's in a similar way, in a way you are kind of teaching that person, you're sharing what you've learned, and it helps that person who's asked a question, and it helps everyone else who sees the question and the answer. So we encourage the group to help support each other. They will learn quicker and better that way. So I completely agree with you.
Fantastic. Here is a question. What has been your biggest challenge, as in the sense either it is a business challenge or an emotional challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I've had so many challenges.
We do every day.
And you know, I've had challenges where I've had cash flow issues, you know, because I have a really good income covering my portfolio, but sometimes you have some bad months, right?
Yeah.
I had one year when I had 7 boilers go, you know, and that's quite expensive to fix. And you can have insurance for maintenance, but once they're gone, you need to replace them, right? And that's quite expensive. So that's happened before. And I think so, and also cash flow in my business. I put money from my portfolio and from my businesses into my developments. You know, and developments can be great, can be very profitable, but actually they generally swallow lots of money before they actually produce some profit. And look, I've done some deals that haven't worked, and I think I've made some mistakes where, you know, I've worked with some people who are really knowledgeable, they know what they're doing, but I maybe gave them a little bit more. I trusted them a bit too much, and I should have been on. So it's mutual responsibility, right? You can never blame someone.
No, sure, yeah.
But maybe I trusted them to get on with it, and I wasn't keeping an eye or managed it as much as I should. And one example of that is people who know what they're doing, but they just took on too many projects.
Yeah.
Put some money into one, some other put money, and they had too many projects. And although they know what they're doing, they're juggling too many balls. And I wasn't there to spot that was happening. So I think, you know, a mistake is we all need to make sure we accept personal responsibility for everything we do. And then just on the nature of mistakes, I've done things where I've kind of invested some money, some of mine and other people's, into a project that I have no control over, and that's gone wrong. And then I've had to pay for the loss of the other person, which is difficult, but I've done that because no one who's ever lent money to has ever lost a penny. And I've always had to take the loss on that. Balance that up with, actually, I've done some phenomenal deals that have made a lot of profit. And I think, you know, you're not going to win them all. And if you're you're thinking, I want to make sure I know everything, you get all my ducks lined up till I can do it perfect, you'll never do anything, right?
That doesn't happen now.
It is a learning journey if you're open to that.
Fantastic. When did the idea of creating a community start, and how did it start, and how was it related to the whole thing of building a portfolio?
So I started the portfolio first because I started that on my own. And in I've been entrepreneurial, and actually my uncle, who was a doctor, he's kind of into personal development, self-growth, and he told me about a company called Nightingale Conant, who the personal development company, and they used to sell these audio cassettes like Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, and all these kind of people, and it was cassettes at the time, kind of mid-90s, and he sent me a leaflet from there, so it was really good, and it was like 50 quid for the set of 6 cassettes. That's a lot of money, but I started buying them and I thought, well, they're really interesting. I'm learning and growing. So I started doing that. And then I went to an event that they were showing. It was a personal development kind of exhibition. And I'd picked up some audios by this guy called Jay Abraham, who's an American marketing guru, genius. And he was coming to the UK, and they had a customer relationship manager who I dealt with. I said, oh, look, you've got to come and see Jay live. He's amazing. So I actually went and invested. My first proper course was in December 1998. And it was about a £3,000 course. And I was still at Cadbury's at the time. And that was like a couple of months worth of salary, really. It was quite a lot of money. But I had a part-time business running nightclub events actually in Birmingham. And I thought, well, my business can pay for that. And actually, when you do training, you can put it through your business, right? And I went on that training, and I just loved learning. And I thought, this is amazing. And I was with other people who'd paid to. The problem with everything, when things are free, you get a lot of people who, because it's free, they don't really value it.
They don't value it.
Actually, maybe they've not invested anything. They've got no skin in the game. Whereas when you go to an event where everyone's paid, you get a higher quality of person.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't mean to be derogatory. People go to free events. I've been to free events and they're good, but do you know what I mean? They're more.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I just thought it was great learning. And in that environment, I thought this is brilliant. Then I started doing more courses and things. I went to some Tony Robbins things and Brian Tracy. And then in 2000, I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within.
Unleash the Power Within. Yeah. Yeah.
Which many people watch this might have done or heard of. It's where you walk on hot coals, and
I've done it.
transformed my life and the way I think about things. So I went to the back of the room, put down $10,000 on a credit card. I didn't have the money, just put it on a credit card to pay for this like year-long 3 international trips with Tony. I thought, this is brilliant. Yeah. And it was from Tony Robbins I really learned about the importance of environment. Yeah. The people around you have a big effect on the way you think and the way you act, and thus the results you get. Yeah. And then when I left Cadbury, so all this is building up. And when I left Cadbury's in 2001, I was going to breakfast network meetings, so I met a great accountant, solicitor, mortgage broker, all the people I needed to help on my property business. That was great. It built my power team. Yeah. But none of them actually invested in property apart from their own home. Yeah. So what I found was, although they were able to help me to a certain extent, they didn't really understand what I was going through. Yeah. All my friends were still working. So my family had never invested apart from their own home. So I really did feel quite lonely on my own. And I'd left work, so I was doing okay, but I realized there were some mistakes I made. And then actually I did go on a 3-day property seminar. I had a leaflet come through my door. And I think it's from this, because I was on Nightingale Conant's mailing list. I think they bought the list or something. Yeah. And it was for a free 2-hour property presentation. And I went along in Birmingham, and sure enough, some of the stuff I knew, but they talked about things that I didn't know. And I've been doing property probably 7 years by then. Yeah. I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is a free presentation. I've learned stuff that I didn't know. What would I learn if I went and spent 3 days with these guys? So I spent, I don't know, £2,000 maybe. My partner at the time came with me, went down to London to this big football club and did this course about another 150 people in there. And it was brilliant. It was amazing. I learned stuff like how you could recycle your money and all sorts of things. I learned about doing things on credit cards. And actually, I left that event. And very quickly, my girlfriend and I at the time, we bought a property in her name because she was a first-time buyer. Yeah. We did it. We paid for it on a credit card check for the deposits. We paid for the refurb on a credit card. Yeah. We bought below market value, added value, refinanced, and got our money back. So it was a no money down deal. So that course, paid for itself many, many times over. And so I implemented stuff I learned, but I noticed that my enthusiasm started to come down. And I twigged it's because I wasn't in an environment of those like-minded people. So in 2003, I went online to see if there's some sort of group I could go to, like a business networking, but just for property investors. Yeah. There wasn't. So I set one up. I set up the very first networking anywhere in the UK for property investors. I called it Property Investors Network. It was one meeting just along the road in a hotel in Birmingham. Yeah. And the idea really was kind of self-serving. To be honest, I wanted to meet other people like me and kind of connect and learn from them. I can honestly say some of what I've done has only been a result of being at network meetings and meetings. So I met the person who taught me after 11 years of investing in 2006. I met someone who explained to me about motivated sellers. He said I was buying from estate agents and auctions and by then a few developers as well. But I didn't know what a motivated seller was. And they explained how they were buying about one property a month, 30% below market value. And I thought, surely that's not possible. Yeah. But by meeting other people doing it, you think, well, yeah, maybe it is possible. And at a different meeting, a couple of months later, I met a mortgage broker who explained, if I find a big discounted property, how at the time I could literally buy using none of my own money. Yeah. And so by going to networking, I was learning, I was putting this jigsaw puzzle together. And then in 2006 and 2007, over about a 6-month period, I doubled my portfolio in 6 months. So it'd take me like 11, 12 years previously. Yeah. And I had an extra £50,000 income. And I thought, this is amazing. That's when I started the mastermind program to show people how to do what I had done. But it was really self-serving to kind of, to feel like I wasn't alone, and actually kind of teaching people happened a bit by accident, because at those meetings I would stand up and talk about what I had done, and people said, this is great coming to these monthly meetings, so I'm really inspiring, we're learning every time we come. But kind of taking a bit too long to learn. We're learning a little bit each time. We want to do it quicker.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, could you run a course? I said, well, I don't know, maybe. And I'd been on someone else's course and that was great. And I thought, actually, there's some stuff I'm doing they didn't share. So I started doing just 1-day courses. And that's when I love teaching.
Yeah.
And I particularly love, Jack, when people go and get results. You know, there's nothing more frustrating when you teach someone something really valuable, just don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah.
And I think that's when so it's been a real evolution for me. I realized that knowledge alone is not enough.
No.
And actually, that's why we created the year-long mastermind program, which is getting a group of people in the room. We've all paid to be there. They're all committed people. And then it's helping them implement the knowledge and holding them to account and getting the results. And that's why people generally come to do mastermind. It's not so much for the knowledge.
Yeah.
It's about the environment.
Yeah. I always tell people that, look, if I was to put you, I would take you, let's say you work in a retail shop or you do whatever you do, and I take you and I put you in a Google office or a Facebook office, and I put you there for a month. I believe almost everything about you is going to change.
Yeah.
It's because the environment you put in. So I think as entrepreneurs, one thing I learned quite some time ago, maybe about 15 years ago, is when I was running my show for a company, I believed that when people come into the office, and if there is a motivational environment or there is a helping environment, so that everyone is helping each other out, it makes a massive difference. And not just that, but if you put in like 1 or 2 sort of geniuses, and I know everyone can be a genius if they put their head down and say, I want to become one. But if you literally put a couple of people who are genius in the middle of that, it starts to spread to everyone. And it's like everyone wants to be that person. And I think that's something I learned a long time ago. And we literally take that and implement into our business. Like literally every day, I think if I was sitting in Google's office, how would I take that and apply it in my business? And if you look at PEN, for example, it literally is based on, so much is based on technology rather than even though it's a network in and itself, but there's so much based on technology. And that's just learning that I really got. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Environment makes a massive difference, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, otherwise there are people around us, family, friends who love you, who care for you. They don't want you to lose money, but they don't really understand property. And you don't want to get advice from the person down the pub who says, oh, property sounds a bit risky. Well, yeah, property is risky if you don't do it in the right. That's why educating yourself is pretty smart. And there are people out there who bash the education industry, and not all education is the same. There are some people who are really good, some are not so good. But to try and say all education is bad is I think a really arrogant and ignorant view, because
it is.
I've done it the hard way. I did it myself through trial and terror. Right.
I like that. Yeah.
And I've got people who are very similar to me, similar age. I've got a friend of mine, Greg, who was at Cadbury's, and he joined the year before me. He stayed for 20 years, got his way to the top of the corporate ladder. And he only left because, well, a couple of things. First of all, a friend of his, similar age, kind of early 40s, tragically suddenly died. And Greg thought, okay, well, that's not good. That shouldn't happen. What's that about? And then when Kraft came in to take over Cadbury's, they said, look, for you to move up, you have to move to Switzerland. And he had 2 young kids in school, and he had 2 elderly parents who both had, unfortunately, Alzheimer's at the time. And he didn't want to leave Birmingham. And he thought, what's life all about? So he had the opportunity to take redundancy. Now, he was on a pretty good salary, having been there 20 years, worked right the way to the top of the company. And he wanted to replace his income. And so him and his wife, Jane, who actually, she started the same year as me at Cadbury's, they came on our 3-day course, and he loved it. And he's a smart guy. He said, well, I've got it now, but said, I just want accounting, I want help. So he then came on Mastermind. And look, I replaced my income in 8 years. And my leaving salary was okay, but I'd only been there 5.5 years. So I left Cadbury's in 2001. And I hadn't quite replaced my income at that point. I've been there 5.5 years, but I had enough to live off. And then when I left, it took me another 2 years to complete replace. So it took me 8 years in total to replace my income. But Greg, when he came on Mastermind, because he wasn't working out himself, he was following a process, and he's a real action taker, he put a lot of time and effort in. He replaced his salary in 8 months.
Wow.
So it took me 8 years to now. By the way, his leaving salary was probably 2.5, maybe 3 times what I was earning when I left Cadbury's, because I was only 5.5 years, it was 20 years. But that just shows where you've got a process to follow.
Yeah.
And people have done it before, and there's a proven plan.
Yeah.
You don't have to go and work it all out yourself.
No.
So, whenever I want to learn something, whether it's I'm looking into cryptocurrency at the moment. I actually have some Bitcoins I kind of had by default for some reason. But I thought, this is an interesting opportunity. I think I should definitely look at this. But it would be really bloody stupid just to start doing it. You've got to learn how to. So I've gone and found who I believe is the best person in the world teaching it. And I'm paying them a good amount of money to learn, because I want to speed up my time. I want to minimize the cost. So I'm investing in myself. And now I will always, in business, whatever, I'll go and find the best people I can. I spent quite a lot of money for a speaker trainer to come and spend a one day, but it's about 6 years ago. I spent £7,500 plus that for someone to come and sit at the back of my room and come and tell me, what can I do to be a better speaker? That's a huge investment for a day, right? But that just took me to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think investing in yourself is the very best thing you could do, followed very closely by property. And you don't have to work it out yourself, guys. There's a plan you can follow.
I agree. Absolutely agree with that. I think if there is someone out there like yourself, I believe literally people need to get a lot of education. I literally come across so many people that struggle with the basics, like really, really basic, setting up a company, doing your basic marketing, setting up your profiles, setting up your payment systems. They struggle with all of that. And you think that shouldn't really be, it shouldn't be really like that. All you got to do is approach the IT person and say, can you set it up for me? You don't have to learn all of that yourself. You're not a systems person. Go and give it to someone who is. Start to delegate. But these are basics of business, but a lot of people even struggle with that. So I do believe
the problem is there, Jack, that if you've never had a business, you just don't know. As most people come from, they got a job, right? And maybe it's just a normal average job, or maybe they're a top executive, whatever it might be. But working in an organization as part of that organization is so different from then coming out and being, or even if you're working still and you're trying to do your property business part-time, the organization at first is you. And you think you've got to do everything. And actually, you're not going to be great at everything. You just kind of said you should work out what you're good at, focus on those things, get other people to help you, things you're not so good at. But it's such a different mindset to when you're in an organization, you're part of something rather than being effectively everything on your own. It takes a lot of getting used to and adjusting. And people, if you're even if you're really smart, your topics, you don't necessarily know how all the different bits of that business work. So when you try and do your own business, you've got lots of knowledge gaps and you don't know how to do these things. That's
true. Here is a question for you. What does the vision look like for PIN now that we kind of know that that this part of the business has been sold? I know you are a part of other businesses. You're also the founder of Crowd Property. But on the side of PIN, now that we know that you've kind of moved that part of the business, but I know you're still leading the business as CEO. So we've agreed. What does the vision look like?
So, well, as we talk, we haven't actually completed yet because I've sold basically. I never thought I'd sell because I'm so involved in it because I love what I do, right? But actually, I've sold it to someone who's someone who I've paid to mentor me in the past, and he knows my business very, very well. And we've referred clients to him; he's referred clients to us, etc. So there's a very good connection. We're aligned on our vision and our values, and they are a global organisation. Whereas I do have some international clients, but we're fundamentally UK based. And what they're doing is he's in the ed tech space. And this last year in 2020 and into 21, ed tech's just boomed because of the COVID and everything. So he's been they've always wanted to float his business. And what he's done is he's come in buying a whole load of other companies, including mine, bundled them up to have a really big, valuable IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. So it's quite exciting to be bought and be part of that. And I get some money up front, but it's mainly shares in that IPO. And there's a bit of a risk there, obviously. But so I'm kind of contracted to stay in probably for the next 3 years is ideal. And what I'm going to be focusing on, so PIN will be doing the same stuff here, but I'm going to be really focusing on growing PIN internationally. So that'd be great for me because I'm a creator by nature. I like to do new things. I like to create and grow. So that's going to be, I think, really, really exciting to be involved in. If I'm perfectly honest, I think it might be difficult working because I'm no longer the owner. It's no longer my baby. Working for someone else is going to be, I've not done that for 20 years. In fact, at the time we're recording this, this month is the first month 20 years ago when I was out of my job at Cadbury's and I was on my own just doing it. So bit of a big anniversary for the moment. And actually it's also the 13th year this came out. So Property Magic is now a teenager. It's been out 13 years. And so February is a kind of an important thing for me. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so I think it's really exciting that we were planning to grow internationally, but it would have been much slower. But now this company we're being bought by has got connections all over the world. And I think we're going to be able to replicate what we do here. Maybe slightly different name, but replicated everywhere around the world. And it won't, you know, if I was to start Pin new now, I wouldn't quite do it the way it's happened because I never quite had the vision to turn into what it did turn into. But it's nice to be recognized. We've had so many people we've helped over the years and we have a pretty good reputation in the industry. It's great that that's being recognized, if you like, and I'm kind of being financially rewarded for that. But I'm get the great fun job of still growing it and still continue to contribute.
Fantastic. So if you were to, let's say, share a piece of wisdom that you've learned over the years, one thing that can change people's life massively at the core, what would that be?
Okay. I mean, that's a big question. I could talk about lots of stuff, but I think, and it's a bit of an overused cliche, but I think it's absolutely true. I think everything comes down to your mindset. And what do I mean by mindset? So let's really simplify it. So I talk about the ABC of mindset. A is your attitude, about having the can-do attitude. And look, you know, last year, COVID was a pretty bad time, right? And it was pretty bad for the economy, but actually recognizing that, okay, you can either focus on the bad stuff going on or look at the good things. So it was a difficult year for us. We had to pivot our whole business from running 600 physical events every year, putting everything online. You know, it was a huge amount of work and effort. But you know what? Actually, it's worked really well. There are numerous benefits, such as, you know, we got people now from all over the world who are participating in our Pin meetings who want to invest in the UK and we're doing our training, etc., far more than we'd ever had before. So it's rather than focusing on the negatives, the attitude is like the can-do, the positive, solution-focused attitude, looking at the positives, recognizing things go wrong and there are negatives, but it's the meaning you give to those things.
Yeah.
Then B is for belief. Belief about what is possible. And I think anyone, if they're talking about their property journey or business or whatever it is, look for people who are like you, who've achieved what you want to achieve. And if someone else has done it, it means it's possible to do. And I think a lot of people think, oh, that's not possible. And they just shut themselves down to what it could be for them. So inspire yourself and motivate yourself by learning. And you can look at videos on YouTube or networking events, whatever. You can connect with other people who are doing this and just build a belief of what's possible. Then linked to that is self-belief. Very often, Jack, I meet people say, oh, it's okay for you because you got this. And the people use all these reasons, or shall we say excuses, why they can't do it. Well, that's just frankly just BS.
Yeah.
If you want to believe you can't do it, yes, of course you're right. Of course you can't do it. But if you believe you can and you take the necessary steps, it's not just about thinking positive. You do need to do stuff, obviously. Yeah. But if you believe you can, that's a great place to start. And then C from the ABC is courage. Courage to step outside of your comfort zone, to do things differently. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. I think that's a Tony Robbins quote. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to change your life, if you want to do things, and you might be really happy where things are at the moment, but just want to grow to the next level. If you want to change your life, you have to change what you're doing. And it starts with you. You have to be, no one's going to do it for you. And someone might get you thinking a different way. There might be the catalyst maybe, but you fundamentally have to make the decision and then take the necessary action to change your life. Otherwise, it's going to be just the same as it was the year before.
That is so true. One thing I do believe, and I heard this probably in some interview a long time ago, is believe and do what helps you progress.
Yeah.
Rather than the other side of it. And you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people struggle with believing the fact that they can be financially free. And I use financially free like this is because I don't actually believe in financial freedom, but I believe in financial confidence.
Yeah.
If you have the belief, then you have the financial confidence, and that allows you to be financially free anyway. I mean,
Yes.
I've been financially confident for a long period of time. Like I literally look at life, it's like I can do and achieve anything. And and that allows us to kind of, it's almost like people come to me and say, how do you grow so fast? It's because I believe in it. Simple.
Yeah.
I believe I can grow, and that allows me to, and helps me grow. And you're absolutely right. I think attitude, believe, and C words, did you say? Courage. I think
Step
massive.
outside the comfort zone.
I think this ABC really does kind of cover the whole concept of what they call mindset.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about, well, what exactly does mindset mean? That's why I kind of try to simplify and create something easy to remember. Because if you don't understand something, you don't really get it, you don't really believe it. And actually, I think, like property, for example, property can seem like, well, that's why I call the book Property Magic, because so magic is a hobby of mine. And the thing about magic is actually it's very mystical. You think, oh my God, how's that done? That's impossible. But when you know the secret, most magic is actually very, very straight. And you'll be disappointed. You think, oh, that's so easy. It's just the same. Property can seem like this mystical thing that, well, how these people replace their income, how do they do that?
Yeah.
When you know how to, when you have the knowledge, actually, I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
No, it's not easy.
It's not easy, but it is straightforward.
Yeah.
If you just learn how to do it and then take the necessary action and be persistent, because too many people, they give up too quickly, Jack. They don't get the results they want. They're impatient. They stop. And they, oh, that doesn't work. They try and go and do something else. You've got to be persistent. If it's not working, get some feedback for someone, because maybe you think you're doing what you should do, but you've missed a vital step in the process. So that's why coaching and mentoring can be so powerful, to help you make sure you're on track and getting the right results.
In fact, I'll point out something that you mentioned earlier, that you paid someone over $7 grand just to come and observe you and give you feedback on your speaking skills.
Yeah, just for one day.
Just for one day. And that tells people, that literally tells people a lot about shares, that you need to invest in yourself. I mean, we know that senior executives, those who actually do really, really well, have loads of people, they get coaching, they get literally mentors around them, they get literally feedback from all their advisors around them to make decisions. And that's how you grow a business as well. It's not about that, just doesn't apply to corporate, it applies to your business as well, and that's how you're going to grow. So that does tell
how many people want to earn the big bucks, but they're not prepared to do what the people who earn the big bucks do.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. In fact, one thing I do like sharing with people is, I tend to jump on a treadmill and I'd spend half an hour, 2 hours, whatever. I ran a half a marathon the other day, took me, God knows, 4 or 5 hours. And I was literally listening to Audible all day, all throughout. And that is a massive learning for those who are watching this. Please do this. And like, Simon said, you got to learn from those who've been through the journey. Otherwise, it will literally feel like impossible. But once you start to see that it is possible, like you read Property Magic, if you haven't read Property Magic, I really, really insist you to. In fact, I'm actually going to share a link of the book below this video. If you haven't read it, I'm massively, like literally from the bottom of my heart, I'm sharing, do go and read this book. It will literally change the way you look at property and your business altogether. Was a massive help to me, Simon. Thank you for, first of all, writing this book. I think when I kind of shifted from the transportation business to Property Magic was actually one of the first property books that I read. This was about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. I was investing in property, like an accidental landlord. I was investing back then. But when I started to take it like seriously and full time, I think Property Magic was the first book that I read, and it did make a huge difference. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jack. Well, and that's very kind. We got lots of nice reviews on Amazon about it. But I think Property Magic is a start. It's a starting point. The whole idea was to try and really get people thinking differently about property and open up their minds and show them some things. And some say, oh, you've not taught me everything. Well, I can't teach you everything in a book. That's why we have training programs, right? But it's great to hear how many people have read it and it's kind of got them started on the journey. Another book, which I'm sure everyone's recommended, but I want to mention just in case people haven't,
Sure,
which is
go
Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
It's not actually about property per se. It's about good debt and bad debt and thinking differently. And I think actually it's great to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad first, then read Property Magic to give you the property card. And I think those go together very, very well.
Fantastic. And even though I don't promote my book at all, I've never done it. In fact, I've not done it for a long period of time. But go down and check out my book called The Ultimate Business Warriors. I am the warrior that you see. I'm the hardworking hustler. I also insist on creativity, but I'm the hustler. So go and grab that book. It's up on Amazon as well. But I will be sharing the links of Simon for you to follow. If you don't know Simon Zutshi, you still maybe don't know anything about property, because he is the man to follow. Please do go and connect with him on Facebook, LinkedIn, and pretty much all social media channels. In fact, I have observed you have a group called Simon Zutshi Affiliate Program. I recommend you guys to go and follow that, because I'm pretty sure as a side hustle, you can make money like we have an affiliate program.
Absolutely. So,
Yes.
you know, we have training courses, we have home study courses,
Yes.
we come with money back guarantees. We have
Yes.
3-day courses, money back guarantees. So we have a lot of our clients who do our training, they get great results. And then we said, well, if you tell your friends and family about it, we'll actually pay you for that. Exactly. And because they've done it, they know they're really good. So they're happy to recommend them. Exactly. And actually, it's a great thing because, you know, people who don't know about us get to hear about it. And I'm doing all the work. There's literally doing some social posts and get paid for it. So yeah, come and check it out if you want.
Fantastic. Simon, once again, it's a pleasure to have you on this show.
Thank you.
It's like, I had actually goosebumps when I got a confirmation that you're coming. I was very, very happy.
Make me blush now.
So thank you for coming, guys. Please do follow Simon. You'll find most of the links below this video. Have an absolutely amazing day. And I wish that whatever you learn from here, that you start to go and implement, because it's not in knowing, but in implementation sits the power. So yeah, have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you very, very soon.
Thank you, Jack.